We'll move out to bout 11. I would like to invite the moderators and chairpersons, Dr. Priyank Modi, Dr. Nikunj Kotecha, Dr. Kamlesh Thakkar, Dr. Vipul Kapoor, Dr. Ravi Singhvi, Dr. Tejas Patel. The moderators and chairpersons kindly take on the session forward. Dr. Kamlesh Thakkar, sir.
Yes, congratulations the team CARDIOCON for such a nice initiative, a nice conference. I would like to invite our first speaker, that is Dr. B.C. Kalmath from Mumbai. He doesn't need any introduction. He is a very well-known cardiologist of our country, and he has so many accreditations, so many research papers and publications. So over to you, sir, for your presentation. Hello.
Dr. B.C. Kalmath, can you share your screen and slides?
Yeah. Should we start begin off?
Yes, sir. Please.
Good evening. It's been a very interesting conference. Kamal and you guys, Prashant, and have brought in, and Thakkar Saab. Then this was this kind of a debate, which was I was asked to talk about whether in a gentleman who had a ACS or a kind of symptom where he's got a shepherd screw RCA, should he go for what is more important? Is the stent design parameters are important, or the drug and platform, or this is important? The outset, I should say my moderators, my judges, and my co-speaker, Samir, is all from Ahmedabad and Surat. So I am the only lone guy out from Mumbai, and I'm sure they may defeat me. But let me, of course, put my, predicaments, my remarks, this thing on this part of what is more important in a patient who is actually has a difficult takeoff in the right coronary artery at his shepherd screw-like thing. So what is more important in these patients? We all know stent is a platform, a stent delivery system, and polymer and drug. All are important in this situation. But what is more important? So it's a question of who is more important. But actually, once we have gone through this, especially for this talk, wherein I was about to debate with Samir, is that I would say the stent design and stent delivery would be more important in such a patient. If you see here, this patient, probably we could not hook the right artery at all initially. Then we tried AR1, then we could the AL1. Well, that was important. And after that, 2-3 times the wire came out, and you can imagine what a horrific thing. So in this situation, I'm sure the stent design or the stent conformity, stent trackability, stent conformability is more important without any properties. The flexibility, also when you're operating radiopacity rather than the drug, the polymer, which are little secondary because they do not contribute too much to nowadays to the outcome, immediate outcome, or even the long-term outcome. Why? Because when you compare the standard stents like Medtronic, Boston, Abbott, Multilink, and the Medtronic, you know, the Resolute family has come with Onyx, which are deliverable, sleek stents with 80 microns, larger. When you look at them, the design is so important because it's a single sinusoidal curve which allows you to track even such pins in such places where the balloons sometimes do not go. So the situation, what's more important is that what is the Medtronic or the other designs which we are seeing is that a single helical modular design
His internet connection was not good. I guess he has logged off.
Yeah, exactly. His net is not that much connected. So there were much interruption in his talk also.
Yeah.
Dr. Kalmath, you must have got a notification on your screen to unmute yourself.
Yeah, thanks. So having said that, what we were talking about the design of the stents, and then we moved on to the what is more important is about the design, which is more important than the polymer. So when you see this, it's not moving. So in this given case, where if you see that when we have this kind of a situation where we look at the design parameters, what is more important in the situation is the deliverability. The deliverability comes from the design, which is more important. The thinner strut stents came in with the Onyx and probably the Orsiros, which Orsiros is more thin, because sometimes we found if it is more thin, then the radial strength is lost. So the trade-off would be that 80 micron stent, 81 microns, which has got a lovely thinner struts, because probably one of the studies said that, the Strata study said that when you, it's adequately thin and has a better conformability, better durability. In this situation, you can have a strut shape and its influence can reduce the resistance also. And if you see here, in one of the proposed higher resistance to catching of the late stenosis in these patients is that the rounder steps allows you to get even the side branch access, which is more important. Achilles tendon of all the stents is that if you have a great side branch accessibility, if you look at the stent abortion, you will understand that the side branch is very important. That's where the Onyx and sometimes to synergy can play a role here, because the Onyx has a great not only flexibility and conformability, but contributes superior to strut opposition, because you could see is one of the greatest stents which is allowed in the left main angioplasty, and that's why we could have even the sizes from 3.5 to going to 4 and 4 to 4.5 mm, which is and even 6 mm from 4.5 mm. That's the beauty of these stents, wherein that's why I would say the stent platform, stent design, and conformity and this becomes more important, and visibility is important. So if you have adequate visibility like Synergy group or the Onyx group, both have got enough visibility. But if you compare the side branch accessibility and of course the conformity and deliverability, that I think becomes more important with the Onyx, which has also had greatest trial with Onyx one with when we compare by Freedom, wherein even the antiplatelet use can be reduced to even as less as 1 month, which was the greatest challenge to mankind. When you have even 1 month dual antiplatelet, I mean, is a very important takeaway. So my dear friends, in my small talk of 6-7 minutes, procedure success is the highest priority that is given by the stent platform and depends upon the deliverability, trackability, and conformability. And the device success is very important when you are operating. So in this era, almost all polymers in the new era, polymers and antibiotic drugs which are put on, all these drugs, whether it's Jatolimus, Everolimus, or the Sirolimus, are all highest grade, and that does not give rise to major difference in restenosis and acute success in this. That's why I would confirm that in that such situation, which is given to me, the most important is to have a good deliverable, trackable, confirmable device. That would be one of the greatest advantages would be these stents. Thank you, my dear friends.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful lecture. Now I invite Dr. Samir Dani, sir, to deliver his talk. Sir, it is visible. You can just do slideshow and yes, it is visible.
Okay. I was not sure whether I had unmuted myself or not. Okay, so good evening, everyone. And thanks, Dr. Kalmath. It was a great talk. But let me remind you that we Ahmedabadis and Surtis are perfect hosts. So don't worry about any partiality. You being a guest from Mumbai, I don't think you would get a bad deal. You will get definitely a fair deal. Having said that, let me talk about this particular case. 50-year-old, so young guy, politician, so I take it very active, with hectic lifestyle, having unstable angina and diabetes and tortuous Shefford-Crook RCA. So he needs a stent that will be relatively easy to negotiate the bands. Yes, surely, but with low restenosis and low thrombosis rates, which has low thrombosis and low restenosis rates even in diabetics, and with possibility for shorter term DAPT because he is young, he is politician, he is very active, he must be very active, leading a hectic life, and he might even forget the medicines sometimes. So I urge you to keep these things in mind. Now let's talk about delivery of the stent. Dr. Kalmath has emphasized about delivery of the stent, which is very important. The stent must be delivered. Otherwise, what is the use of the stent if it is not there where the lesion is? But it is less of an issue with current generation of DES. We have very good balloon catheters with excellent pushability and trackability. You use extra backup guiding catheter or special Shefford-Crook guiding catheter. You do a meticulous lesion preparation, dilate the lesion well. He's young, so unlikely to be a very calcific lesion. Use support or body bias if you need, and then you always have a guideliner or guidezilla to fall back upon. Most of the current generation stents are also relatively flexible. So I believe that delivery of the stent in this particular case is non-issue. Now, just take a look back on how the PCI has evolved in last 25 years. From POBA, plain old balloon angioplasty, to bare metal stents, to drug-eluting stents, all through the stent platform has evolved, but not that much. From stainless steel, we have come to cobalt chromium. People have tried other platforms as well, but it is mainly cobalt chromium and stainless steel. We talk about thicker and thinner struts. We talk about links and flexibility of these stents. We talk about open and closed cells, but that's it. And that science has remained relatively static. And here, as far as other things are concerned, you have biostable polymers, you have biodegradable polymers, you have no polymers or polymer-free DES, you have had first generation of bioresorbable vascular scaffold, and you have now new generation or next gen absorbable scaffolds coming up. So the three components of a stent or drug-eluting stent are drug, polymer, and stent platform. And drug and polymer are much more important nowadays. What is the drug? Is it sirolimus, everolimus, which one, zoteriolimus, biolimus, paclitaxel? And we have evidence to believe that limus family of drug is important. What is the dosage? How is it delivered? That also is very important. The drug elution curve is extremely important. We will come to that in the next few slides. Polymer, what is the polymer matrix? What is the type, durable versus biodegradable? You have evidence to suggest that biodegradable polymers somehow behave a little better, especially in diabetics. Composition of polymer, etc., and polymer-free DES also needs to be considered. So other components like stent design and platform are important, but less so in this particular case, especially when you can deliver almost any of these current generation stents into tortuous RCAs. And the latest generation DES are coated with biodegradable polymers, and after the complete biodegradation, only a bare metal stent remains, which reduces the long-term risks, especially in younger patients, long-term risks which are associated with permanent polymer. Stents which are completely free of polymer, they are probably even better, and completely biodegradable stents might be even better once they are available. And I will re-emphasize the advantage of biodegradable polymer DES, that it is a conventional DES in early phase and becomes a BMS in later stages. If you use thin struts, but with good radial force and biodegradable polymer, it promotes early endothelialization. And if you have a stent which has abluminal coating, there is less drug exposure in the systemic circulation, chronic inflammation is less, so it is accepted worldwide, now getting accepted worldwide as a treatment of choice during PCI. And you have established long-term safety and efficacy. So we have to think of all this. And of course, as I said, polymer-free DES has its own advantages that remains to be proved. What I really want your attention to is the healing cycle. This is a diabetic patient. Remember, this is a 50-year-old patient. This is a diabetic patient. This is an active patient who is ambitious. And healing cycle in a normal individual is about 2 to 3 weeks. But in a diabetic patient, healing is delayed. The cycle is unpredictable. So you need a programmed and prolonged release of drug in these patients, especially so. The current drug delivery pattern of 15 to 20%, which is equal to metal to artery ratio, takes care of discrete lesions very nicely. But when you have longer lesions, when you have diffuse disease, when you have a vessel which is diseased, then you need to be sure what you are delivering, where you are delivering. And homogeneous drug release is very important. So drug delivery can be controlled better in terms of controlled elution of drug when you have a biodegradable polymer compared to a permanent polymer. So if you see the healing cycle post-PCI in diabetics, the second and third phase, if you will, leukocyte recruitment and smooth muscle cell migration or proliferation are the most important time windows when the drug has to be there. So the drug release with drug levels are very important. And you have some data to suggest that polymer-free drug-eluting stents do little better in terms of late loss and restenosis rates with vis-a-vis biostable or durable polymers. Of course, you need head-to-head trials. You have head-to-head trials with sirolimus eluting versus bare metal stent. You have sirolimus eluting versus paclitaxel eluting stents head-to-head trial, but you have between sirolimus and everolimus, between sirolimus and zotarolimus, and very few trials, and between everolimus and zotarolimus, hardly any. So remember that polymer and the drug are very, very important factors in this particular patient. So what is the ideal stent for this patient who is a diabetic 50-year-old? A lever's drug.
So time is up.
For 60-90 days. This is the last slide. Very low, very thin surface of biodegradable or a durable polymer coating, a thrombus-resistant luminal surface, a minimal duration of DAPT, low stent thrombosis and ISR rates. So stent platform is important, but here in this patient, drug and drug delivery systems are more important. Tortuous RCA and Shepherd-Crook origin are red herrings. Don't get disturbed by them. Don't get distracted by them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, so much for the talk. It was really very informative. Now I request the chairpersons and moderators, Dr. Kamlesh Thakkar sir, Dr. Vipul Kapoor, Dr. Priyank Modi, Dr. Nikunj Kotecha, Dr. Ravi Singhvi sir, and Dr. Tejas Patel sir, if they are there, to carry on the discussion.
Sir, can I ask both of you? Kamal Sharma sir has always been known to have practical conferences. So for both speaking 2 and 3 of choice of what we usually have on our table in this particular case, sir.
Yeah, well, my friend Samir has given a lovely talk, and I appreciate. Only thing is, not all of the operators are as good as Samir to deliver any stent there. So having said that, that's why in an average operator like me, the delivery becomes important, and hence my friend could not show any differences in these new Jatolimus and Urolimus and even the other Sirolimus stents, difference in restenosis, except because this modern stent, all the restenosis are pretty same in single digits, as we all know that. So the delivery, that's what we say, first do it, like Nike, do it and prove it. So unless we deliver the stuff, you cannot get the restenosis and conformity. I do agree. That's why I said when you look at, in fact, when he's a politician, you're always afraid to get the damn stent there first, then forget about getting the restenosis and other things are important later. So that's why I should thank Kamal for putting a politician word there, that you are most often ready when want to get the stent there with your double body wire or a guideline catheter. That's more important. That's why how many times all of you had seen your stents flying off such a shepherd's crook. It's a real crook. It's a crook to us to not to allow us to stent easily, having even pre-dilated and given 2 wires or support system. Also, we often fall back on getting many a times we had to fall upon 2 stents to deliver this kind of stents. One would be Onyx and others would be R0. It's been many times I have had, at least 10 times in the last 2 years, I have fallen back, removed other stents and then put these 2 stents. Thank you.
Dr. Kamlesh Thakkar sir, any comments?
Nice discussion and nice lectures by both the esteemed speakers. And to me, both the things are very important. Delivery definitely for the acute result. If I am not able to give acute result, then I will never think of a long-term result. But as Samir sir said, long-term results are also very important. Single lesion is also equally important. Later stent thrombosis thing is also equally important. So if I can get an ideal stent which is easily trackable, deliverable like this case, and which has a biodegradable polymer or which has a very short DAPT duration, then I'll be happy to do with the same stent. And regarding the deliverability, this current generation stents are really good. And in my experience, I have never had any difficulty in delivering any stent. And we have so many things like
We lost the connection, I think, with Dr. Kamlesh Thakkar, sir.
I lost the connection.
Dr. Vipul Kapoor, Dr. Ravi Singhvi, any comments?
Hi, hello, good evening, everybody. Excellent talks by both the speakers. Both factors are equally important. I do agree with both of the speakers. It was an excellent debate. I would like to ask both of them if they are there. Any comments on now that the MIRAS has come in, absorbable stents, suppose, considering that all the factors are in this particular case are all, acceptable, unlike the earlier absorb, is a more flexible and a more trackable stent with the lesser strut thickness. What are your comments? Suppose if the patient demands, he's a politician, he might demand an absorbable stent now. What are your comments in this case, if at all?
Thank you. Frankly, we don't have too much experience on the newer BRS actually from Merrill and suppose people and PM. Yeah. But if they can bring the strut thickness to less than 100 microns, then it would be of some use, I'm sure, because it's been still a very rigid stent as much as we had from Abbott earlier, and stent thrombosis at almost 2% is. And I believe with the new trials, they should come down below 1.4 and 1.3%. Unless the stent thrombus does not come below 1.2% and the strut thickness does not come below 100 microns, we still are not game with this new BRS. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just asking you, prodding you for the same.
Yeah, I think what Dr. Kalmath is saying is absolutely correct. We need to see the performance of these bioabsorbable stents. As far as deliverability and trackability is concerned, of course, they are likely to be little less flexible, but having said that, it shouldn't be a big issue. As I said, once you do meticulous bed preparation and once you are able to use, you should have GuideZilla or GuideLiner in your lab, and you should be ready to use buddy wires or support wires quite early on, rather than when you anticipate the failure, that is the time to use these techniques. But yeah, for MIRAS, we are all waiting with a bated breath. We hope that it will work. That will be the first absorbable stent from India. I mean, India's gift to the world, but if it should work.
Yeah, we use these stents, and the results have been, they're much gratifying and much more trackable and much more well visible compared to the absorb earlier. So hopefully in such, they were not as crooked as this Shepherd's Crook RCA, but it looks promising, the technology, at least as of now, but long-term results would be there to be seen.
And also with the newer evidence that the US FDA had more than 7,000 patients, diabetic patients, especially tried for the Onyx, also helps us to tell that this may be a great platform and wonderful mixture of drug, polymer, deliverability, less very bioabsorbable this thing, and less DAPT. It will make a very great success, I'm sure.
You have, we also have, I think, one more Indian stent which is approved for special indication of diabetic population, and that is because it's the stent is not only the stent is coated with drug, but the balloon is also coated with the drug, so that the drug delivery is more homogeneous. So I think the Indian companies are doing very well nowadays. In terms of not only, we are not just copying, we are, innovating, we are getting original.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for the wonderful discussion.